What's up, guys? Here we go again, indeed. How are you guys doing? I hope all of you are doing well, still keeping within the limitations, whatever COVID year has presented to us, but nevertheless, still having a little bit of fun because, you know, without fun, what is there to life? So let's get back to our first love. And the reason why we are all here, that is the love of figures. Now last week, or the last video in fact, I actually did a review of one of my favorite villain of all time, in fact if I might say, the quintessential villain of the 80s, Skeletor, or maybe people like Mumbra and whatnot will and Megatron will have a say about that. But okay, let's say he is one of the quintessential 80s villain. Today we look at what defines the 90s, and when I talk about the 90s, a couple of cartoons, as you know I'm a fan of cartoons, come to mind, and most notably is this one here, X-Men animated series. Now, how many of you guys are familiar with that and have actually watched, I think, pretty much most of the episodes? And if there was ever a villain that defined and personified X-Men, it was this guy right here, Apocalypse. Again, there's an argument to be made for Magneto and the likes, but let's leave that aside for the time being. For now, we look at what I believe was like the quintessential X-Men villain of all time, namely because he was a big figure, he was an imposing figure, he was someone who was ruthless, and he was someone that was a proponent of the survival of the fittest, and all that the good stuff that makes up a good villain. So when I got my hands on this man, or mutant, shall I say, I was pretty pleased with myself. Of course, this particular version, as you can see here from his costume, harks back more to the comic series, which I must admit I can only vaguely remember that story. I know it was a story where Professor X dies, and if I'm not mistaken, it was events after Apocalypse have gained control of the world. Essentially, if I'm not mistaken, getting control of the world, like half of the world from North America and all that, and he was like the emperor or whatever, the dominant personnel, and was hunting down humans because he believed humans were inferior species, as evident of his bio here. It says Apocalypse launches an offensive against humankind in pursuit of a world where mutants rule and only the strong survive. So that's pretty much Apocalypse for you. So this costume here harks back to that. I think it was 90 something, like mid 90s maybe, at the height of the whole X-Men craze and popularity and whatnot. So the Age of Apocalypse X-Men comics was an inspiration for this figure. What else can I say? As a reference point, you can get this figure out of Big Bad Toy Store. Now, okay, for this one I didn't really get it at Big Bad Toy Store. I got it from a local where did I get this? Oh yeah, Toys R Us. But of course I can't mention local prices here because God knows who are my audiences. But let's as a reference, you're gonna get this, or you can get it for about $32 in Big Bad Toy Store. That's within US, of course, but if you intend to bring it from there to wherever you are outside of the US, I would assume that you're going to pay anywhere between $8 to $16 in shipping. So you can work out the maths based on your currency as such. With that, I think that the other thing I want to mention is actually this is a good tribute to Apocalypse, because the original Apocalypse, of the wave or a couple of waves before this, the Apocalypse figure actually came as a builder figure proposition where I think you buy a couple of X-Men. I think it was like Wolverine, Sabretooth. There was, if I'm missing, a Psylocke. What's that guy with the mohawk? Gladiator. Yeah. And I think you buy like 6 or 7 of that, and you can build a figure which is more true to the animation style of Apocalypse. You know, the suit where it's more blue and gray, and he has like a hoses running through his arms, and I think there's like a big Captain America A and his belt and all that. Of course, obviously, that was a couple of years ago, long before I started collecting, which is at least recent, or at least during COVID. So either you can track that down, which is easier said than done, and even if you do track it down, it's gonna cost you $1 zillion. So who knows, maybe I will get a chance to get one for a reasonable price, because I do like that design more than this. I like the Age of Apocalypse comic book storyline, but for me the shall we say the more happier moments was watching that animated series. Was it Fox Kids or something like that? Anyway, so if I can get that, well and good. If not, I will settle with this Apocalypse, because I think they are kind of in the same sort of body, or in terms of size and mold and whatnot. There are some differences, as you can see here from the costume. What do you get from this box? Typically, like any other Marvel Legend box, you get the indication of from which universe he comes from. Of course, the name. Now, this kind of box, or figures that are slightly bigger than like a standard Marvel Legends figures, comes in what they call as the Deluxe box, or Deluxe series. So it's slightly more premium than what you get. So as I said, $32 for this one, as opposed to something like a standard Marvel Legend figure, which is around the $23-25, something like that. But the packaging is more or less in the same vein. You have artwork on the sides of the box, and then you have the big what do you call that, picture of the figure in terms of how he will be represented by the figure. Some what do you call that, description of the character and things that we are not likely to be paying much attention. So let's open this bad boy and see what we have and take it from there. Right, let's bring my friend Mr. Knifey and unbox this right in front of your eyes and see what we get. Yeah, as I mentioned, this one particularly, oh, I didn't cut it properly, sorry. I got it from a local Toys R Us, and yes, they do still exist in my country. And it wasn't a very difficult figure to get, but there wasn't much of it, so I'm glad I managed to snag that up. Now when you take it out of the box, you can see the box itself is, well, it's just a box, but the sort of the artwork that is usually associated with it, like a background picture, is Apocalypse himself in sort of his sort of frown, or that's his beautiful face, I suppose. Well, enough of the box. Right out of the packaging, well, out of the box actually, you have the figure, and just the color pops. I think the cape is sort of given to us in a separate piece, and right off the back I can say this is made out of hard plastic. In terms of accessories, what do we get? We get the what looks like another optional fisted hand. We get another head sculpt. There you go. So sort of a more serious pose when Apocalypse is not really happy with his what was it, the horseman, and things are not going according to plan. Then you have a poor human who presumably is hunted down by Apocalypse and his minions, and well, let's just say this is the remnant of that human in particular. It's a nice sculpt of a human skull with all the sort of paint job and sort of dents. I don't know whether you can just about see, you know, there's like a dip in the skull. Yeah, it's it's also like very weathered, sort of dirty feel about that, but the material itself looks actually like a human skull. And the reason why we are here, the figure itself, which I must say looks very, very impressive. Comes with the head when Apocalypse is happy and he knows his plan has worked tremendously well, and he's quite pleased with himself. Right out of the back, I will see whether there's any quality control issues. Now it kind of feels like that's kind of loose, not very loose, but it's definitely, there's no tension or anything like that. So okay, yeah, no particular flaws in the paint job. Looks okay so far. In terms of the figure, everything checks out, so I am okay with that. Now we will also look at the cape. Like as I said, is like a pre-post cape with a sort of a flow to it. Cape has some bits of dust and whatnot, but other than that, no flaws in terms of paint or whatever like that. It kind of looks like you have two clips here, or two pegs here, that you just have to clip on top of these holes, and that will give you the definitive look for this Apocalypse, at least, and comes with the cape. Okay, so let's investigate the articulation and take it from there. Now let's measure him in terms of his height. Now the thing is, Apocalypse is going to be a lot taller than most of the X-Men, simply because of the way he is. Typically this particular figure goes for roughly around the 20 centimeter mark, which if I convert it to inches is about roughly around the 7.8 7.9 inches. So he's a tall figure, and he would definitely stand well sort of at the back of a let's say a collection, an X-Men collection. In terms of articulation, well, you have seen pretty much most articulation in every single review, but I'll just go through that. One thing I've noticed is that he has this huge, what looks like a collar piece that it's not really, you know, attached to the body. It's like a, well, let me show you. It's a separate piece that you actually sort of insert it in these holes, you know, using these pegs. I'm not too sure why this was not. Maybe it's a case of because without that, as you can see, the head actually moves quite a bit because the hinge allows it go all the way back. So Apocalypse will have that range of head articulation all the way up, looking up, and all the way down. But if I were to put, let's say, this collar piece, now that's going to hinder somewhat the, let's try to put this collar piece, yeah, that's going to hinder the head articulation to somewhat, so you can't really look all the way. So you can see the difference there. Down, I guess it doesn't affect that much, but definitely in terms of looking up, it will be affected. In terms of his arms, as usual, he can stretch out by that much. In terms of forward articulation, about that much. He does come with this huge shoulder pad that seems to be removable, or at least it's flexible, and it does not impede the rotation of his arms, so that's pretty good. There is a bicep swivel. There is what appears to be only single joint to his elbow. So well, there you go, that has come out, so you can just see the shoulder pads that kind of looks like you just have to put that in. So that just came out just because I rotated the arms. He does come with what do you call a hinge that allows his hand to go inward that much and outward that much. So okay, pretty standard fare. This cut in his diaphragm allows him to have quite a bit of crunch and quite a bit of backward stretch. However, as I mentioned before, and I think you've noticed this in this review earlier, in the sort of the earlier sections, it is quite loose for my figure. I don't know whether it is a common theme for most figures, but you know, there's, I mean, he does stand. It doesn't look like, you know, he will all of a sudden just crunch for no reason, but it is loose, or more loose than, you know, most of the other figures I have handled before. He does come with the waist swivel. He does come with the famous Marvel Legends thigh cut. The knees are double jointed, so that allows quite a bit of bend. And in terms of the feet, the ankle joints, it is a hinge that allows front, back, yeah, a little bit of swivel, enough swivel actually, for a large figure like this. So all in all, pretty standard fare. Let's see, the legs go that much in front, so that's quite a bit of a what do you call that, forward motion. Back just about, because obviously it goes without saying his rear end is gonna, what do you call, impede that progress. In terms of the split, yep, if anybody can do it, Apocalypse can do it. So all pretty standard stuff. In terms of articulation, it's okay, all well and good. I don't suppose the cape will come in the way, simply because it's actually out of the way. As you can see here, the cape kind of what do you call that, is sort of pushed in rather than, you know, becoming the overhang in terms of his shoulder or arms and stuff like that. So it should be okay. Yeah, the only problem is every time you play around with the arm and you rotate it, things start coming out. So maybe a little bit of glue to stick this back, and or maybe not, you know, at least the cape, because I don't see the cape actually impeding in any way. Yeah, it can get out of the way, so should be okay. Right, so now let's try to, this is the figure and it's all its glory, as you can see here. Well, for other figures, typically when they come up with this kind of sort of cape that is like made of hard plastic, or even let's say a less than hard plastic, but nevertheless it gets in the way. Not so much in this case, and sometimes the cape actually is used as like a stand, because the figure tends to fall back. But in this case, I think Apocalypse can stand all by himself. He doesn't really need the cape to stand. Well, okay, I think, yeah, even if his cape is out of the way, let's see, I don't know if I can show you, he is able to stand, not so much of an issue. So let me just turn around and you can see what I'm talking about. There is a, if I can take a paper and show you the magic trick, that there is no trickery involved. As you can see here, the cape is not really touching the desk, so the cape doesn't require to be used as like a stand for this figure. So he's okay to stand. Like I said, the flexible torso is only, it is a problem for me in the sense that it is loose, but it's not like all of a sudden he's just crunching forward, which would be annoying. I think what is more annoying is just the fact that this cape doesn't, you know, it's not stuck. Probably I will take some kind of glue or whatever and stick it there, because like I said, I don't see it coming off. But just keeping it like that, it just tends to come off every now and then. And similar to this this what do you call this collar piece, it just tends to come out every now and then, and it can get irritating at times. So if you're like me, well, I'm not a huge fan of figures that should we say have their own lives. Anyways, let's try to change the accessories and see how it looks. Now, as I said, the figure comes with two different head sculpt. Now between these two, it's I think it's just a matter of preference really. One has that sort of maniacal laugh and sort of happy pose and everything coming together and all that, and one is more the serious pose, and it's like I need to do something about that sort of look. Whichever, say, let's say head sculpt you go for, I think it works. So let's just try to put that in. You see, as I said, that collar piece and that cape. All right, let's just take it out for the review, because otherwise all I will be doing is just messing around with them. Nice snap back, and okay, now everything is falling apart. There you go. It's not that it's so much of a like a problem in terms of you know, a defect or anything like that. It's just loose. Maybe I don't know what happened, but it's definitely a lot loose than it should be. But a little glue shouldn't be an issue, especially on the what do you call that, this collar piece as well as the cape. As I said, in terms of, you were talking about the head sculpt, and like I said, either one of these works. I don't see any issues in using any one of them. In fact, if you actually pose him without the cape and the collar piece, he kind of looks like the 90s animated series Apocalypse. I mean, if you ignore the sort of the red what do you call that, differences in like the red paint job in like sort of this sort of his what do you call, groin area here, and also his boots and this piece here. This could work actually. Interesting. Now, all right now, in terms of stay. Anyway, in terms of the only other accessory, I mean, apart from the human skull, is these fisted hands, which you can go with two fisted hands, or you can go with the classic, you know, villain hand, which is I'll get you next time, or when they're being philosophical about conquering the world and all that. So I prefer this combo for most of the villains. In fact, most villains come with this kind of combo anyway. One fisted hand, one sort of like a semi open hand. Just, you know, it's like, oh, why am I surrounded by idiots? Sorry, that was a different villain. Anyways, the other thing is, when you have the open hands, you can also have this pose where he's actually holding on to a skull. Now the skull doesn't necessarily connect anywhere. It just looks like it has to be placed, but there is enough because there is a, as you can see here, there's like a depression, and you can just about, bear with me, insert it between his thumb and this finger here, and nudge it ever so close so that it has grip and that's not gonna fall. So, and then he can look at it and he says, what a feeble species, and that sort of, you know, pose and whatnot. Or he can go for this Shakespearean, what is that, was it Macbeth, and that kind of look. Okay, so I think that is it for the review of this figure. I think I pretty much covered just about everything. As usual, guys, if you like what you see, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. And just a little bit of a notification as well. I've recently also what do you call that, I also have a new Instagram account specifically for this hobby. It goes by the name of figureheads_unite. That's figure heads with an S, so plural, all one word, underscore, I'm not going to spell that, unite, unite. So please feel free to follow me in my Instagram account as well, because I'll be posting whatever figures I buy in that sort of channel as well, and between this and that, hopefully I can reach out to as many people as I want to and help me grow as a content creator. But also, more importantly, I think for now I would just like to reach out to as many people as I can who share the same passion and let's say hobby, because it's relatively, let's say, a small community, and I would like to reach out to like-minded people such as myself. Okay, so with that, I bid you farewell. Stay safe. Thank you for watching, and as always, guys, adios.
Here we go, making really on, getting icy zone, flexing, I've been swerving, make it trendy, we look sexy. Here we go, making really on, getting icy zone, flexing, I've been swerving, make it trendy, we look sexy, It's so icy, 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 my neck combination, 새로운 것 같지, 머리 swag, 남들이 잘 때도 쓸어담지, breaking good, life is good.